The 2004 Patriots, the 2008 Celtics, the 2011 Bruins, or the 2018 Boston Red Sox. All of these teams were champions. Perhaps this Celtics team could be on that list someday. Mego, how'd you vote?
I voted 2008 Celtics. I'm surprised that so many listeners are not giving them the respect that I think that they deserve. They had the best record in the NBA that year, 66 wins. They had the record only bested by Arcan's beloved 86 Celtics. They had the best defensive rating in the NBA that year. They ended a nearly 4-decade championship drought for the franchise, and they did so against not only their biggest rival, but the biggest rivalry in the NBA. And on top of that, I found this little stat, which I didn't realize. Maybe it's been mentioned before on this station, but I haven't heard it before. That team, that Celtics team, defeated every team in the NBA at least once for the first time since the 1990-91 season. There wasn't a single team that they saw during that regular season that they didn't beat.
So, one thing, it was a 4-decade drought from 86 to 2008.
I was struggling with this math. It's like doing clock math.
It's like 20 years. It was like 20-plus years from 86
nearly
to 2008.
3-decade drought.
Well, it was more than 2 decades,
Nearly
yes.
3-decade drought. I'm doing Jones math.
There was a drought. If you round up, it would be nearly 3 decades. That's true. So there you go. Mego votes for the 2008 Celtics. Not my vote. Arcan, how'd you vote?
I voted for the 2018 Boston Red Sox, and I sort of wavered between them and the Patriots of 2004. I think you could make an argument even for the 2016 Patriots. They were a great team that ended up winning a championship too, but I ended up going with the 2018 Red Sox because that's the best Red Sox team of all time, and they were front to back dominant team. I remember they started the year like 9-0 and just completely obliterated everybody on their way through. They went through tough teams on their way to the World Series. They beat the Dodgers in the World Series going through New York and Houston, and I don't know. I look at that team. I look at the roster. I look at the way that they never really had any long losing skids. I think they lost 3 in a row was the longest streak they had that season. They were just a wagon. And there were some good Red Sox teams. I mean, we argued about 2004 and 2018. Which team did you like more? I don't think there's any debate which team was more dominant. They were the most dominant Red Sox team ever, and that's why they get my vote. Okay,
so you mentioned the 2018 Red Sox, so that's how you voted. This reminds me of that discussion a little bit, Arcan, because we were having it in real time, you and I. Would this team be more dominant than 2004? We all love that 2004 team. The 2018 team hadn't won yet. And so in real time during that season, we were having that debate. And I think you can have a similar one right now with this Celtics team versus 2008. And we will do that today. But that conversation reminds me of, I think, the conversation we can have with the Celtics now versus KG and Ray Allen and Pierce. So, again, you can vote. It's up now at Jones and Mego. You can weigh in on the phone, 617-779-7937. Who is the most dominant Boston sports team since 2000? The 04 Patriots are our option, not the 07 Patriots. Sorry, Mego, you got outvoted. They didn't win. They were dominant. They won a bunch of regular season games, and then they crapped their pants. They didn't finish the deal. So they're not on the list. Neither are the 2023 Bruins, which we also debated. 65 win last year. You couldn't get out of the first round, you're not on the list. We went with the 2011 Bruins. Mego voted for the 08 Celtics. Arcan voted for the 2018 Red Sox. My vote's the Patriots. That 2004 Patriots team, to me, could beat you a variety of different ways. They could shut you down defensively, like they did to Peyton Manning in the divisional round. They could light up the scoreboard offensively, like they did to Pittsburgh in the AFC title game. That run, Manning, Roethlisberger, and then McNabb, T.O., and the Eagles, that was the best that you snicker. That was the best NFC team all year. And Pittsburgh and Indy were excellent teams all year as well. The reason I vote for them, and it comes back to the Celtics conversation, was the road they had to go through was overwhelming. And so when you really dig in on these teams, or at least it would have been overwhelming for a lot of teams, the Patriots really didn't have much of a problem with it because they were dominant. And on top of it, they're winning back-to-back titles. They had the bullseye on their back, the target on their back, unlike all these other teams. None of them were defending champs. And so I think there's an added degree of difficulty for the 04 Patriots as well. But the reason you can cross the 2011 Bruins right off the list is the same reason I wonder if the Celtics, this version, has what it takes to win it all. Go back and look at their road. Montreal, hasn't won anything since 93. Philly sucks, never wins anything. Tampa Bay in the conference final. And then Vancouver, who was the President's Trophy winner that year. That's a real team they went through. Fine. But I just went through the Patriots one. Manning, Roethlisberger. And then again, it's McNabb, but that Eagles team was great that year. Pittsburgh was 15-1 that year.
Pittsburgh beat you that year.
They had to go to Pittsburgh and beat them in the AFC title game. Like, that's an unbelievable path to get there. The Red Sox were the same way. Yankees, Astros, Dodgers. I mean, that's a path. That's a real considerable path where you're dealing with talent on the other side. Celtics outside of Atlanta in the first round, because that team they never should have screwed around with. LeBron in round 2. The Pistons, who had won a title in the Eastern Conference Final, and then Kobe, who took the next 2 championships. Like, that's a real path, too. That's something all 3 of those teams, not the 2011 Bruins, all 3 of those teams have in common.
I just think with the Celtics in particular, when you line it up against this Celtics team, it's like they handled it from beginning to end, aside from that Atlanta series that you cited, where it felt, especially given the turnaround that they had from the year before, which is basically, it's a historic turnaround in the NBA, going from adding the 2 to create the big 3 that they did and then having the 66-win season. I felt like it, in the same way, in real time, felt like they were telling you who they were exactly from the beginning. And then it was still like, wow, this is happening so early for these guys because of what you had gone through the year before. And so I may be a little biased also because some of the Red Sox teams and the Patriots teams, and for the record, I think we chose the wrong Patriots team for the question, but I was outvoted. I thought we should have done the 07 Patriots.
If they were dominant, they would have won.
Yeah, because you changed the question, because originally our question was going to be, who is the most dominant team since 2000?
How do you dominate if you don't win, Arcan? Explain that to me.
That's why I didn't. I voted against it. I say, because I agree. I mean, they dominated the regular season. They didn't dominate in the playoffs.
No.
They almost, I mean, they didn't almost lose, but those were one-score games for most of those 2 games against Jacksonville.
You
and
lost
Chargers
the Super
before
Bowl.
You got there, and then you lost in the
You
final
lost to
game.
Eli. You're not dominant.
I can't say you're more dominant than the team that didn't lose. I mean,
Same.
that's just, it's hard to, it'd be hard to vote for them ahead of that.
The Bruins were super dominant in the regular season last year, too. They crapped their pants in round 1.
At the risk of being completely, I don't know, like pulling out some kind of late July style sports talk, if the 2004 and 2000 team played each other, who do you think they would win? Who do you think would win?
2004 and 2007? 04.
Yeah.
I've said this many times. 04
Really?
Would, 04 would shut them down, yes. That Giants defense shut them down. Do you know how good the 04 team was?
Okay.
How balanced they
at
were?
both of them, at their
would
very best.
whoop
They're
their
seeing
asses.
each other.
Yeah.
You think that the 04
Yes.
team would win? That's just
Yes.
where we differ.
Okay.
And Brady agrees with me. He said that 2007, on the record, was the better team.
Okay, he's wrong.
And they got stuffed in the end.
Okay.
I still think that if we're talking
He
about...
also thinks you can't eat strawberries. So, like, I love Tom Brady, but he's not right about everything.
I plead the
I
fifth.
think he might be right about his own football team.
He thinks he's going to be a good broadcaster. And so, like, he's not right about everything. Arcan, who would win? 04 and 07?
I think 04 would win. I just think 04 was a little bit more well-rounded. For all the talk of what 2007 was, they were an offensive-heavy team with a pretty good defense and a pretty good, not great running game. And I think that you had all of those things in 04. It's also a question of, the league was changing at the time. The sport was changing sort of right in front of us as we went from the early 2000s into the 2010s. So I think that
07, they were so soft.
they were kind of. And they also, as the season went on, they kind of deteriorated a little bit. They almost lost that game to Baltimore. They had a tough game against the Giants. They weren't dominating the whole season, but everybody just remembers those blowouts against Washington and the Jets and all that.
The first 8 weeks.
And it was great. I mean, that was fun to watch for sure, but a dominant season has to be the whole season. They didn't finish the job.
The 07 team was the Peyton Manning Colts, and the 04 team beat the crap out of the Peyton Manning Colts. So that's what they were. And so, to me, again, you can vote. And if you think it's 2007 or you think it's the 2023 Bruins should be on the list, go ahead, by all means, write them in. Dial us up on the phone, 617-779-7937. Right now, the team for the Celtics since 2000 is their only championship team. 2008. Can this team surpass them? And this is why it's similar to that Red Sox conversation, Arcand. It's
Right.
like, 04, 2018. Who's the greatest Red Sox team? Like, I still think what 04 did meant more, obviously, duh, but 2018 was more dominant, if that makes sense.